Hey, welcome to First Kids, guys. If you can tell, we're in a different location. Hopefully you know what this location is. Hey, we're back in Sunday school room in our children's area. And, it's really good to be here. And I can look around and see a lot of empty chairs and can't wait till the time when we get to sit down and see each other face to face. That time's coming. It's going to take us a while to get there, but I have faith that it will be here at some point in time. Today we're going to continue with our lessons, and what are we talking about? Do you remember? We talked about Jesus as a teacher in our last sections, and we're talking about him as you got it, that's right, we're talking about him as a miracle worker. And Jesus can do all kinds of miracles. So what is your favorite miracle? Really? Is that your favorite? Are you sure? You know what my favorite is? I told you one of my favorites last week, but this is one right here today that's probably one of the most known. The feeding of the 5,000. That's what we're going to talk about today, about Jesus feeding a crowd. And not only do I want you to pick up how miraculous Jesus is, but think about what he's doing. Because, in the Christian life, we're supposed to be modeling him. So think about what he's doing here, and I also want you to pick up with the circumstances that were going on around the miracle. Okay? So we're going to, once again, go to Mark, the book of Mark. That's Mr. Scott's favorite. This story is found in the 3 of the Gospels, and, but Mark is one of my favorite reads. So I always kind of gravitate to Mark for some reason. I don't know. So Mark chapter 6. And I'm going to start on verse 31. I'm going to back up just a little bit before that. It says, "And Jesus said to them," and who's them? He's talking to his disciples. Jesus said to them, "Come away by yourselves to a secluded place and rest for a while." So Jesus identified, and sometimes, we have this thought or vision of the disciples as being super guys. But they're not. They're just everyday people like you and I. And Jesus realized that they were weary, that they needed some rest. They had been performing miracles. They had been visiting with lots of people. And he said, let's pull back and let's go someplace and rest for a while. For there were many people coming and going, and they did not even have time to eat. They went away in a boat to a secluded place by themselves. Now verse 33 says, the people saw them going. So just imagine you're on a lake and somebody's trying to leave the dock, but you're wanting to stay with them. And so you're just kind of following along the banks there, and you're watching and you're seeing them go. So you're going to go around and meet up with them. And it says, and they ran there together on foot from all cities, and they got there ahead of them. So they kind of seen where Jesus and them were going, and they went there. Okay? And when Jesus went ashore, he saw a large crowd. Here you go. And he felt compassionate for them. Do we have compassion in our lives? We should. That's one of the things we should model after Jesus. Jesus had compassion. He had compassion, number one, we found out he had compassion for his disciples, his closest friends, his team, so to speak. He said, hey, I know you guys are weary. Let's pull back. You didn't even have time to eat. He sees this crowd and he has compassion on them. Why does he have compassion on them? Because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things. And when it was already quite late, his disciples came to him and said, this place is desolate, and it's already quite late. Send them away so that they may go into the surrounding countrysides and villages and buy themselves something to eat. So the disciples came to him and said, hey, Jesus, it's late in the day and these folks haven't eaten yet and we don't even have anything to feed them. And so let's, you might want to cut this thing short and let them go on home so they can go get them something to eat. But Jesus answered them and said, you give them something to eat. Jesus looked at them and said, hey, give them something to eat. And they said to him, shall we go and spend 200 denarii on bread and give them something to eat? You know, one of the things I looked at while I was studying this, that's about like a year's salary for these people. So he's saying, you want me to spend a year's worth of earnings and go buy them something to eat? And Jesus said to them, how many loaves do you have? Go look. And when they found out, they said, 5 loaves and 2 fish. So we know some of the other gospels said that the little boy had 5 loaves and 2 fish. And he commented to them all and said, sit down in groups on the green grass. And they sat down in groups of hundreds and of 50s. So just imagine, if you would, there's people here and they sat down in groups, and there's a group of 100 over here, and there's a group of 50 over here, and a group of 100 over there. And he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking toward heaven, he blessed the food and broke the loaves, and he kept giving them to the disciples. And he set before them, and they divided up the 2 fish, among them all. And they all ate and were satisfied. And there were 5,000 men who ate the loaves. So Jesus took this and he performed this miracle. He fed the whole crowd. He realized that they needed something. They needed him. He said they were like a sheep without a shepherd. They needed him. He needed to talk to them. The inconvenience that was going to happen there was that they needed to eat also. And he looked to his disciples and said, let's give them something to eat. So he took what he had and he asked God, the Father, to help bless this food. And he started breaking the bread and performing a miracle and giving it to people. And there was 5,000 people. And he started with how much? What was it? 52? 5 loaves, 2 fishes. And when he got through, how many leftovers were there? There were 12 baskets full of leftovers. 12 baskets full. There was more left over than what he started with to begin with. And that's the way it is when we serve Jesus. There's always more left over than what we start with. In anything that we do, he always does it. He multiplies his blessings that way. We always have more abundance on the tail end than what we had going in. Now, I want to ask you this question. Do you think there's any coincidence on 12? We don't know that there is. But there's 12 disciples, and there's 12 baskets of leftovers, and they were hungry, and they were serving, and they hadn't had anything to eat yet. And Jesus may have been, this story may be telling us that, look, out of my blessings, there's abundance enough for those that serve. You can't eat a basket full of bread and fish. But there was plenty left over for them. You see, we need to be like Jesus. We need to have compassion on people. We need to look and see that people have needs just like Jesus did. And Jesus knows you have a need. Do you have a need today that you want to carry to him? That's the best place to carry it to him. If he can feed 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 2 fish, he can take care of whatever problem you have. So if you have something that you are worried about, take it to Jesus. He tells us that he takes care of the sparrow. He takes care of the plants in the field. And they're beautiful, and he takes care of everything. He's more than willing to take care of you because you're the crowning point of his creation. I hope you've enjoyed the story today. Remember, it's in Mark chapter 6. It's the version we read. If you get a chance, sit down and talk to it with your mom and dad. See what their takes on it. How many people were there? There were 5,000 men, but they were probably, we know there was a boy there, and there were probably some women there. And can you just imagine what it was like to sit down and have a picnic with Jesus? Hope to see you next week right here.